Truth Seekers, I hope you all had a great weekend. It is Tuesday night here on 4BK. I'm Roderick Martin hosting the show Truth versus Authority. Tonight, we're going to go into something really deep, but we're going to have a topic and we're going to include Sophia. All right. If you don't know who that is, or if you do know who that is, the goddess of wisdom, then you're going to be really excited to how she ties into what is happening right now, today. And yes, it's going to dispel some belief. It may shatter some other people's thoughts when it comes down to it. Because one thing I will tell you to focus on is what is happening in the real world today. We know there's a lot of stuff that's going on. People are feeling this anxious feeling, or maybe it's because of anxiety, maybe because of the way of life is. But some of you have a thought, and it ain't because we're in what we call Mercury retrograde or 3-hour Atlas or whatever you want to call it. I said 3-eyed like it's some reptilian, but you get what I'm saying. The whole point I'm saying is that there's something bigger going on a daily basis, because at the end of the day, you should be feeling this. And you should be feeling what I consider that quiet, persistent feeling that something is fundamentally wrong. And we're talking about reptilian stuff too, okay? So we're going to get into that. But it's not just the chaos of our world. We're talking about the endless cycles of conflict, scripted division. It's deeper. It's a feeling of what I would consider entrapment, a sense that reality that you inhabit is a stage and you're merely an actor reading the lines that you didn't write in a play you don't even understand. Now, you feel it when you look at all these systems of power that we're going through today, so vast and cold that seems inhuman, because a lot of the stuff they're doing, but you feel it when you look in the mirror too, as a stranger looks back at you, which is yourself, and strangers driven by impulses, emotion that feel alien, that feel programmed. And what if this feeling is not paranoia, right? What if it's not madness, but a crack in the facade? The first glimmer of light through what we consider a prison wall. And what if the most scandalous secret of our history is the truth, and that the cosmos that we talk about up here in space is a prison, and that it was built by the blind psychopathic God, and that its wardens are still here and they're alive? And we're not talking about other things, police officers. We're talking about the magistrates, the governors, the ancient rulers. The Gnostics called them Archons. And so tonight we're going to get into that really deeply. I hope that you're ready for an intriguing conversation that we're going to be having, and it's going to be deep. So get your notes out, because those Archons is this guy right here. Okay, this is one, and this is a reptilian. I call him a reptilian warrior. We have our draconic, alpha draconia, and then we have our reptilian. So as I'm a fan, of course, I got reptilian toys. We can do that. But then for those of you who are reptilian lovers, you can go to the website truthversusauthority.com and get you one of these to put on your desk too. I had them made for us, just for us reptilian people. Let me get into, once again, first of all, I'm Roderick Martin. I have my own podcast called Truth versus Authority. It's here on YouTube. I'm only here on Tuesday nights. And if you want to, you can go over to that podcast and subscribe to my YouTube channel and just give you some quick background. If that ain't enough for you, you can find me on Gaia. I'm a brand ambassador for Gaia. You can find me on a TV series I host on a show on Discovery Channel. I have one on Apple TV. I'm in Beyond Belief with George Norrie. Fox Tubi, Gaia, once again, their Forbidden Knowledge, as well as History Channel, Ancient Aliens, and several other TV shows too about Bigfoot as an expert and all those things. So you can go find me more if you like what you see and hear. You can go ahead and do that. But let me get into our conversation. See, the world of the 2nd and 3rd centuries of Common Era was a world coming apart at the seams. Now, we're talking about for the ancient mind, particularly for those perspective of Egyptian and the Hellenistic mystic traditions. And it was a apocalypse. It was the end of an age, the centuries of Roman conquest, widespread political instability, profound by economic decay, created what I would consider a spiritual vacuum, and that world was profoundly wrong. Now, this was a world that many felt that they wanted to escape, kind of like some of you who are starseeds and you're like, I don't belong here. I want to get off this country, this world, and go some other place. Well, they were feeling like this as a civilization, and there was a reason for that, to be exact. So in response to this crisis, a variable menu of spiritual technologies emerged and promising a form of escape. What we would call the inward or inward turn to Gnosticism offered a fortress of the mind. Now, we're talking about the mystical ascents narratives of Jewish Merkava. If you go look at that philosophy and Hermetic traditions, they both offer what I would consider a letter to the stars if you're trying to make it there. But perhaps none of these spiritualities was more radical, more extreme in its diagnosis than the collection of belief that we have come to call Gnosticism, right? Gnosticism. So we're going to get into that tonight, and we're going to go a little deeper into some of those beliefs, and it can tie into a lot of things that is happening here today. So while not a single unified church, these various schools of thoughts, the Sethians, the Valentinians, and the Ophitites or whatever. And let me pause real quick. I forgot to give my disclaimer. As you know, I have two boxes, a virtual letter box over here and a virtual grammar box over here to the left. If you hear me mispronounce something or whatever, butcher the word, you go into the virtual grammar box and you correct the pronunciation yourself. But let me warn you, because you are a godlike being, you are a creator, you are a beautiful soul, and the fact that you have the ability that I can say banana and you know what I'm saying, that's because you work that way. You are that intelligent. So therefore, you might not even need the grammar box. You just might know what I'm saying. And because your ego is in check, that you're not in a shadow that we'll talk about tonight, you're not going to be trying to correct me in the chat. Unlimited spelling letters over here to the right. Grab as many if you need. You see something on the screen that's misspelled, you have the autonomy to fill it out, unlimited letters. So with that being said, they taught us that true reality is purely a spiritual one. Fulfillment of the divine light, known as the pleroma, right? This fullness is presided over by an inedible, unknowable, and truly good God. The Gnostic myths state that a metaphysical tragedy occurred. One of these divine emanations from this God, an eon named Sophia, or what they would call wisdom, is an impulsive act of creation sought to emanate her own I guess she was trying to create herself, or I don't know, but without her divine counterpart or the consent of the Great Spirit, which some of us will consider called source, right? But her mistake did not create a flawed good. It created a horror, a nightmarish, aborted creature that they called the Demiurge, right? In the craftsman, all right? Now, this being, known in the ancient text as Yaldaba, all right? This is Yaldaba. A-O-T-H. So I can spell it. And Socolus or Samaya is what they pronounced it, was a blind, arrogant, psychopathic entity. Now, ignorant of the pleroma, which was above him, he looked out into the chaos, and his madness, he declared, I am God, and there is no other God aside me. This is what he said. I am God. There's no other God aside me. Now, from these Gnostic Christians, if you go back to that, this was the true identity of the creator, God of the Old Testament. So you want to go back and look that up. But unlike Platonism and Gnosticism, or whatever you want to call it, the mainstream Judaism and Christianity, which saw that the cosmos as a beautiful and a good creation, the Gnostics saw it as a prison. And we talk about this prison planet here all the time. It's not something that we don't discuss, right? And they're talking about a machine forged by the malevolent Demiurge to trap the souls of humanity. I can stop the show right now because most of you already know that they're always been here trapping our souls. Or if you in some type of one of these industry, they tell you that they want to do, sign a soul contract, or we hear about our soul contracts. We hear about, but one of the things about symbols and demonic stuff, they all want that soul. So that's important to know all the way back that the Gnostics still talked about it, that there was a trap here. And once again, we sometimes elude this as the prison planet. But why? I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked the question because in the final act of cosmic sabotage, the divine realm took pity on the uninformed consciousness of humanity and smuggled what we consider a divine spiritual spark into the hearts of mankind. Now, we therefore, the prisoners of war, holding a piece of God in a jail built by the demons. So this is where you're going to hear a lot of the influences or people talk about there's a God spark in you. We have that light in us all. So if you go back to the Gnostics text, they verify all this information. They tell us that that spark exists, but yet we have what we consider the Archons, which we will get into this. So this is something I think I did a few weeks ago where if you will go back to a presentation style, I think I did it last week or the week prior to that, where I was talking about we are the creator and giving people the nugget of that, right? And it's so ironic because that particular video is probably one of the lowest videos we ever have viewed. The YouTube didn't even push it out. And I'm not saying that the AI algorithm don't know some of this stuff, but hey, when you're teaching people the truth, sometimes there's powers that be that just don't want this thing to work. So when you start talking about the Gnostic Christ was not a figure of sacrificial atonement. So think about this. I grew up in a Christian household. On my wall, my mom would say that man, that dude up there died for my sins. But the Gnostics text said that's not what it was. Jesus didn't come here for that, right? We were told that because we are born into sin, and now we have to live life like Christ with all these sacrifices, and no sacrifice meaning give them the power over us, right? But the Gnostics Christ was not a figure of sacrificial atonement, but a divine, listen to me, a divine messenger sent from the true good God, a spy, so to speak, from another dimension. His mission was not to die for our sins. And again, go verify all this yourself, okay? But his mission was to reveal the truth of our condition and provide the secret Nazis of knowledge and how to escape it. And this goes to this because, and thank all of you who got one of these for your altars. This is the eye of true of knowledge, the eye pyramid with the serpent on it. With truth versus authority. You know, we can get these on our website. I've been having all these little things made because and we'll get into it in a little bit, but it's time for your symbolism game to pick up to another level, especially what is happening here. But if you go back and think about it, they said that he came here to die for our sins. This is the story. Now, I'm not telling you otherwise because, I could say I was raised Christian all of my life. And people will ask me today, and I can still say I'm a curious Christian, whatever, right? But to appeal it, we done jumped off the bandwagon of that, but because there's a lot of stories. But I do believe there was a story Jesus did exist somewhere in it, okay? So, but the stories that we are told is a whole nother story, okay? So to set the tone of that, to set the tone of where we're going to go, as always, I like to use one of my favorite clips from my guy, who I got a lot of his information. So let's kind of see what he's talking about. It's going to tie into where we're going with this.
In harmony, I think we're being set up for something very serious and very big by some very powerful secret societies that very well could have extraterrestrial or otherworld intelligence guiding it. All over the world, we have accepted the authority as truth rather than truth as the authority.
To repeat what he's saying, that we have this, even based on some of the stories that we have, it's a misunderstanding, and it's almost to a point that the majority of us is praying this way. I'm just using for a metaphor example here. When the elites, the people, they're praying this way. Now, I'm not saying that there's not some type of entity or some kind that's not answering some of these prayers, but at some point, the true knowledge. And even if you start thinking about where we get into, when you start hearing me talking about the shadow, and you're going to hear me refer to the archetypes of this reptilian shadows of deception God, I'll read some out of this tonight. And when you hear me talk about that, when you come on my YouTube channel, we talk about the reptilians. We move from the reptilians to the Archons that we're talking about tonight. Then we move over to the knowledge of the serpent. Then we go into the shapeshifters. Then we go into our personal reptilian shadows, because we all have reptilian in us and all those things. But we're not snake worshipers. No, but there was something there that said that there was knowledge behind the serpent. Now, I'll touch on that later, and get back onto the storyline. But even Jesus himself said, be wise as a serpent. Okay, that's enough right there. But anyway, this brings us to what I call the wardens of the cosmic prison. The Demiurge, whatever you want to call it, was not alone. He created a retinue of malevolent beings to act as his enforcers, his administrators, and the co-creators of what I would consider a flawed reality. Now, in ancient Greeks, they call these Archons. They call them the rulers. You can go back to, I would say, other texts, and they'll be talking about the Watchers or all of these things. And these are not a title of majesty. It's not like that. It's a political term like magistrate or government. They are the cosmic functionaries, I would say, petty tyrants, the gatekeepers. They are the beings that's most intimately responsible for the entire mess that we have today. And they are the first hurdle. Listen to me real closely. They're the first hurdle that your soul faces in its escape. Okay. Even when we are lifted out of here, we face those people, those entities, those things in whatever they want to call heaven. David Icke called it the trap. And somehow we believe, in some cases, I'm just talking now, that light that they're talking about is the light, but it really brings you right back in here. Okay. And so therefore we have to learn the difference in stillness or ascension, or get your vibration higher enough that they can't even find you. That's a sidebar. That's a sidebar. We'll talk about that too. Stick around later into the show, because it's necessary for you to learn that. But back to what I'm saying, for centuries, if we go deeper, our understanding of these beings was filtered almost exclusively through furious parliaments and their enemies, the church fathers like Irenaeus and Hippotopus, or whatever his name is, who hunted the Gnostics as heretics. Now, the story kind of goes back to in 1945 in the desert of Upper Egypt, a discovery was made that changed everything. It was like a clay jar unearthed near the town of Nag Hammadi, which revealed a hidden library of Gnostic texts. In their own words, the hidden book from the burners, from the burners of the rising Roman church. Now, alongside of these, what they did find, and we look into the Greco-Egyptian magical pottery, which contain a wealth of incantation, rituals, and the very name of these mysterious beings. Now, once again, they found a list of who they are. Somebody written down to who these beings are. That is worth knowing, right? That is something to be like, okay, I definitely want to know about that kind of information. So it's worth knowing. These documents, combined with the transcripts of our investigations that we did and some of our team, allow us to piece together that the secret mythology of the Archons, right? Excuse me. And what we find was stunningly detailed cosmology of our own jail cell. This is why you hear me say that this is a prison planet from where we are, because that the text describe origins, their nature, their hierarchy, and their methods of control, which we're going to be talking about that even more detail tonight, because this is what's controlling us. And this is what we're going to reveal tonight. And so that you can go on a path of getting yourself out from under this particular stuff. So again, I see some of you in the chat, Christopher, Keith, Adam, Amazing Energy, Diana, which is our godmother of the channel, Ruben, and a few others. So we are live. I'll check the chats here every now and then just to kind of see where we are. But anyway, they are the creators of our physical bodies, forging us from what I call the 4 elements as prison of matter. Okay, let me repeat that. Forging us from the 4 elements as prison matter. But more terrifying than that, because if you look deeper in the story, it goes a little deeper. They are what I consider the creators of this, of our physical bodies, right? Okay, and then that's part of the rage. That's part of our fear, our jealousy, our love of pleasure. And the Gnostics saw these not as mere human failings, but as the inner puppetry of the Archons, the strings that they pull to keep us deluded, controlled, and blind to the divine spark that we carry within. So that is important. We're going to be understanding that. Now, it's really important that you understand that there is a divine spark. Now, through that divine spark, there's always issues and things that we need to pay a close attention to. And for example, is going to be creating, and I'm on a mission right now with a few people that I work with, that we're going to, it's time for you to create what I consider your protection sigil, okay? Which, this is mine here, which you see right there, which is truth versus authority. I think I can put it up on our screen. You can kind of see that, but it's a protection sigil as well as a power sigil, and it's activated. It works, and it's one of those things that is worth you knowing. There we go. I think I can put it on the screen. Yeah, there we go. I'll put it up there right now. So it's our protection sigil. Now, to understand this, I think it's time for people to understand the power and the power of not just manifestation, because you got to remember that there's three minds that we carry right now. We have the conscious mind, because we are the conscious community. You have the subconscious mind, which is kind of operating there, and then you have the collective unconscious. Now, the collective unconscious is operating in silent. It's something that we all are one in it. We all are part of that source. You, me, all of us as part of that. And it stays hidden from our upper realities, and we can't access it. But our ancestors, they knew about it. The elite knew how to access this through symbols, okay? It's really important that you understand this. In fact, let me just give you a few quotes, because where I'm going to explain to you is this. There, right here, Gertrude said, symbols are the language of something invisible spoken into the visible world. What she's saying is that we can't see it. Now, if you were at one of our last events that we did here in Dallas, I broke down one of the companies, and I got a hold to their internal documents, how they use sigils and symbols. And it's a multi-billion-dollar company. We all use their product. And I showed you how they tap into sacred geometry, all of these things. And I'm saying it's time for us to do it too. And that's what I teach our organizations in private, that we have, it's no longer of us telling you what they're doing. It's now for you to understand why. And there's nothing more important than why. And then you use the power yourself. So get that going. And then on another thing, every human being should know that there's two languages, the language of society and the language of signs. And one serves to communicate with the other people. And listen to this, the other serves to understand God's messages. I want you to begin to understand God's messages, okay? You have to begin to do that. So Brother Joseph, if you know him with New Life Tools, we're going to be doing an online workshop where we're going to be talking about sigils and symbols, helping people create their personal sigils. And then he's going to do the magic for you. He's going to show you how to activate these with the magic and the power. And make no mistake about it, people, you've seen this everywhere. You've seen the rich people with what they call their, whatever it is, their family crest, right? Those are sigils. And they have all these different elements put on there, protecting their wealth, protecting their family legacy, and they do it into the unconscious mind or collective unconscious. Because another thing real quickly, and we'll get back on it, is that you have to learn to create that sigil, and then we got to learn for you to put it into your collective unconscious so it'll work, so that your conscious mind can't find it and tell you that you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that, and that's something that you want to go. But anyway, real quickly, I'm gonna put this on the screen as we continue. If you decide that you want to do this 3-hour lecture that we're going to do, there it is right there. So that's the website. You can go to truththere'sauthority.org for less than a coffee a day, or less than a banana, or whatever you want to do it. It's one of those things that you want to do. And I'll get more into that later, but you can go there. And then when you're there, you're going to be shocked to see this one is an online event. So you can watch it from home anywhere on a Saturday. And so we'll be doing that, but all other stuff. So if you want to do it, or if you're in Dallas, I'm going to be doing it at a location, and he's going to be in Houston because of Mercury retrograde. So he's not going to be traveling. then there's a way that you can come in there with me for a little nothing and sit there, and then we'll do some stuff afterwards. Okay, but to understand the Archons people conspiracy, we must first decode what I call the hierarchy, the Nag Hammadi text, particularly Apocryphon of John. And you want to look that up because I'm actually going to get that book, right? Because it's supposed to give some real good information, but it provides a chilling organizational chart for our cosmic prison. So it's a book that that's going to be, I think I already ordered for yesterday or something from Amazon. But at the top sits the chief archon, the Demiurge Yaldabaoth, right? And Yaldabaoth, they said he is the product of Sophia's fall and what they would consider aborted fetus of divine power, ignorance, and arrogance. And his very form is a symbol of corrupt power, a hybrid. Listen to this. He's the hybrid of a lion and a serpent. But let me give you the details of why he's the hybrid so that you understand the journey that we take when we go down this reptilian, and people just think I talk about shapeshifters and lizard people. Yeah, they're here. 70% of our government is some type of reptilian, whatever. 70%. There's no joke. All right. And they rule the planet. Okay. However, you can get underneath and not be one of them, walk among them, and you survive, you get what you need. And that we know the rules, right? And we know how to do this. And we do it, and we give more people one step at a time. So the lion, if you go back, is a timeless symbol of the sun, of royalty, of sovereign self. Is fused with the serpent. Think about this, which is the archetype of Sinitic underworld, of the underworld. But it's the underworld of hidden knowledge, right? So you want to think about that, or they say knowledge of poison, but it's the hidden knowledge. This is why we were trained when I grew up to stay away from the serpent, or is this. But when Eve bit the stuff, it was a whole different story. And I'll play a little something for you in a minute of showing you some people, and one of them in particular had something to say about the serpent, okay? But anyway, we embrace the serpent knowledge in our community, because there's knowledge there. And like I said, if you want to go with the word as the word, and Jesus said, be wise as a serpent and whatever is doves, why would he say that? Because he was there and he knew. Now, take you back real quickly. This will be what I call a detour. There's not a religion on the planet. There's not a culture on the planet before religion that did not worship some type of serpent, dragon, or something that came from the sky. They have artifacts and where they built large python giants in caves and cave in Africa. They found 70,000 of years ago, they found a cave in Africa made of a python, and these shiny rocks and all this stuff was in there. This is before religion. Religion was a tool that they created for control, and it came from what Jordan was just talking about. All right. So Yaldabaoth is the shadow sovereign and the shadow ruler, what we call a twisted predator king, so to speak, who mimics the authority of true God. This is why the show is called Truth versus Authority. I always tell you, your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. You have to know what is happening. Now, just the fact that he is, as the text state, is blind. The Demiurge, he was blind, okay? And so his blindness is his arrogance. This is why I'm telling you, your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. You got to get away from that, okay? And then we talk about that with the shadows. We talk about that within this guide. We talk about it with the shadow guide when this all comes as a set, and then the solar plexus, and you can see the reptilian stuff there. And people joke about it all day long, but you better look it up. The reptilian stuff been here for quite some time. All right. So anyway, he was the ultimate Gnosticist, and the shadow Gnosticist who in madness create a flawed cosmos as a mirror of his own imperfection. Now, from his own mindless, I would say Yaldabaoth creates his own lieutenants. The Gnostic text describes them as 7 Archons and some 12 who are appointed as rulers over the spheres of heaven. Now, they are the ancient planetary rulers, the Heptiads. They are the wardens of the 7 planetary spheres, the gates of the prison. And this is the axis mundi, right? M-U-D-I, the world tree in reverse. It is not the path of connection, but a ladder of confinement, okay? And those are one of the things that you would say, right? And you're correct, Jessica. Yeah, I mean, Jessica, saying that see the snake sign in religion in the hospital. Yeah, there's not a person in here, Jessica, that get hit in the head with a rock right now, and they look over there and see the McDonald's emblem and other emblem, and then they see an emblem with two snakes and a wing. They're gonna run in there to save their lives, and they don't even know why. Somehow they're gonna go in there and but if you're born where I was at, you're like, oh, stay away from that serpent. But that's wisdom and knowledge in there, and it's the caduceus. It's part of our hospital system. Why is that? But anyway, thank you, Jessica. But each planet is a checkpoint, a toll booth guarded by a demonic magistrate, right? But their control is deeper still. The Archons, the texts say, correspond to the days of the week. Think about it. A damn demon for every day of the week. A Monday demon, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we want to turn it up on Friday. Yo, you know, so they got one for every day of the week. But they're the masters of time, bending the human soul to a cycle of decay. That is what they're doing, okay? So, but anyway, how can I put this? Then in the act of supreme demonic collaboration, the Demiurge commands his legions. Look at this. Now, we've used this on plenty of occasions. He says, let's make man or human beings in our image. Then the text describes 365 archons and angels gathered to construct a primordial human body, both physical and physical, okay? Both of them are psychical or psycho or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, let's make man in our image. Now, that's Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 or whatever. I don't know, 26, 1 through 26, somewhere in there. But let's make man in our image and the likeness of ourselves. And this is most of the weirdest thing because people think that is God talking or whatever. And it says, let's make man in our O-U-R. And if any of our kids came home with homework and talk about ours, them by themselves, you're going to be like, O-U-R is plural. Our family went on a vacation, not my mother. You know what I mean? So it said, let's make man in our image and the likeness of ourselves. That was a lot of group of people that were altering our DNA. Billy talks about it all the time, and that's something worth to look at. But anyway, then in this Gnostic secret of our condition, our physical bodies, okay, this prison of matter, you know, because when I do my meditation, I'm more, I always say that I'm more than this physical matter. I can see beyond the physical world, blah, blah, blah. So I do that to get out of body when I'm meditating, and we are, you know, and those are things, but they know that they try to, this prison of matter or material world is what people say, and it was built by them. But so were our base emotions. Our Archon forged our physical body, another desire, another grief, another fear. They create these things, and they did it through what we call modern day life today. All right. And those are things that you have to look at and go in there, and it's something there. But anyway, what do we think, or I would say what we think of our human nature, our rage, our jealousy, our addictions, our love, our pleasure? The Gnostics identified as counterfeit spirit is the archonic program installed in our hardware, that they are what we call the inner puppetry or whatever, right? The strings that makes the marionette dance. They know how they create the strings when they do this. So if I think about it on a more of a personal note, I can say that I probably spent years studying this, and this part that would probably worry me the most, right? And this isn't just a story, I would say, about demons in the sky. You know, I'm a certified UFO investigator, and people talk about the aliens and different things that comes all the time. And it will be definitely something for us to think about. But then I will say that this isn't just about demons in the sky. It's a intrapsychic invasion of the mind, right? The Gnostics were the first to describe what modern researchers now call psycho-spiritual parasites. All right, psycho-spiritual parasites. That's probably the word for the week. Okay, the word for us to look into. These texts are explicit. The Archons feel on, or what I say, loose. They feed on our fear. When it comes down, they are what we call the shadow parasite. This is why, once again, I have this 100-page guide here. And if you can see it, there's a reptilian back there. You probably can't see him, but he's definitely up there. And that reptilian goes into the shadow. And when you get this trio, I give you, this is how you're going to protect your solar plexus, right? You're going to do the journal, and you see that reptilian. I make sure that I focus there because that's where it is. And like I said, I'll read you a little something here in a little bit when we get deeper into the show. But they are the shadow parasites feeding on loosh, the raw emotional energy we generate when we are in the programmed state of rage and despair. They cause the families, man. They cause a lot of stuff. And like I said, a lot of you probably understand where I'm coming from. You probably feel certain things and not really understanding what. And most people in the weight community be like, oh, there's some negative energy. I can feel the person's energy. And there's some truth in that, but I still think there are some other things that you want to really look deeper into to make sure you understand that these people are working toward our energy and they're working toward a lot of stuff. But this also connects directly to the work of Carl Jung, okay? The Archons are the ultimate personification of what I call the collective shadow. Not just personal darkness that we all carry, because we all do, but a collective inhuman shadow, an autonomous, active, malevolent intelligence that deviates from our minds away from the sane and proper applications. And people, this is the very reason, and we're still waiting on more from the publisher, so I don't talk about it as much. This is the 500-page guide. It's not a book. This is have 54 archetypes in here, and the 54 archetypes of each reptilian shadow. And I'll read some of this to you today, that you will be able to know who you're talking to, what it originates from, the keywords that they use, and you'll be able to recognize things within yourself. And it's not for you to kill it. You need to integrate that shadow. That's where your superpower is. And once again, Jesus says, be wise as a serpent. And you want to do that. But this thing is very good for every archetype. And like I said, I will pick one out tonight later on in the show for you to make sure you stick around, because you're going to be like, what? All right. And but anyway, I would say, but the most shocking pattern, the one that bridges the ancient world with our own world, is their appearance. Okay. The Nag Hammadi text describe two distinct classes of archons. I'm going to stop right there and pause. So give you a time to think that through. There are two classes of archons. Do anyone know what they are? Anyone in the chat want to? And if you watched me yesterday, don't do it, because I talked about it, right? But do you know what they are? The Nag Hammadi text describe two classes of archons. People, this is stuff that is out there, okay? And the first is the primary ruler. His name is Yaldabaoth, okay? That's the first one, all right? And the second one, okay? Let me give you who the second one is. The second one is a reptilian type, this right here. A reptilian type, okay? That's who they talk about, all right? A reptilian type right here. I had these made with 3D printing because I'm a reptilian fan. I have the Draco Draconian with the wing on my website, truthversusauthority.com. Get you one, put it on your desk at work, freak some people out. You'll be the talk of the room or whatever. But a draconian or reptilian type, there's two, okay? And of course, the second type. Now, again, Yaldabaoth, is the first, and he's the draconian type, okay? The second type of the Legion worker is described as a neonate or embryonic type. It's kind of like an embodied fetus. Now, the reptilian master, an army of embryonic fetus like drones, right? You got to remember that, because we're born in an embryonic sect too. To let you know, we are reptilian, part of that. We're born in that same embryonic sac, right? We all are, and for many, I would say, or any other modern researchers that kind of look at it, this was parallel to the impossible to I would say I couldn't ignore it. So the Gnostics 2,000 years ago described stunning precision that the two most commonly reported entities in the modern UFO and alien abduction lore was the Greys and the Reptilians. I'm a certified UFO investigator and all of that stuff, right? And so once again, we get into it. All right. So it's important that you understand that. And again, you got to protect yourself. You got to get your protection sigils, right? You have to understand that. And like I said, you can come to do that. Yeah, reptilians rule the world. Y'all give him a shout out. Yeah, and they do. And again, there are some people dropping knowledge in here, man. They do attract to that aura. They do want you to, and people feel it, but I don't know why they ignore the myth, right? And you can go all the way back before Earth had even, the moon wasn't here. This was a water planet, right? And again, you can go to every single culture on the planet in every corner of the earth. They all had something to say about serpent, dragon, like worshipers that they did from the space or sky or whatever. It is true. It is true. And again, you can go in fact, let me play a little clip of not David Icke, but Jordan Maxwell right here when he talks about Draconian right here. Listen.
You've heard about David Icke, probably. David Icke I brought here to America back in 1994. David Icke is famous for his talking about the reptilians and the reptilian presence in mankind. And this is true. He shows how inside the human brain, the two lobes of your brain, if you open the lobes up, there's a smaller brain inside, and scientists call that, doctors call that, the reptilian principle or something like that.
All right. So I'm saying to you, I've took a whole, that is our mission. Not only we have a reptilian hotline on my channel, we go into it deeply. But one thing I tell everybody around me, get your sigils, your protection sigil together and understand it. It is so important now, especially with what is going on in our system of governments today, all of these things. People, the 70% of our people there are reptilian origins. The Illuminati's, the 13 original families, right? This stuff goes all the way back to Babylonian, and it just keep going. The Zulu shaman, I forget to pronounce his name, Credo Mutwa. He tells the stories, and if for some reason it is the greatest story that many people, even people in our community, ignore because they just don't see the reptilian thing, but don't even know we have a reptilian brain, that there are people today, man, somebody was just born today and they got a tail. Look it up, just Google it, people with tails. They were born with a tail. And that ain't no mistake. They want to say, oh, that's some type of disease or something. It's a confession to the truth. The veil over the eye stuff. You hear the old folks talk about the skin on and men. I just can't. I would love to keep going for you, but this is the core revelation. The Gnostics were not just writing a creation myth; they were writing an intelligence briefing, a field guide to the alien intrusion that began millennia ago. And if we are to believe the evidence, it ain't never stopped. They have never left, and they've been here, and it's all because their technology and everything is so great. They get into the minds. That's what we call the reptilian shadow. And like I said, I'm gonna give you some text in a minute. Okay, I'm gonna give you something you can work with if you so choose, and you can kind of go there. But either way, I will say that this narrative of what I call pure monolithic evil, as terrifying as it is not the complete picture. It's just not. The Gnostic text in their profound psychological complexity offers, I would say, a little twist to it. And we're going to get into it because this is going to mess you up a little bit. Not all the Archons were in agreement. We already know that. A lot of them, they didn't agree. Some of them didn't want them how they was treating humanity. The siphon of John, like I said, I'm gonna get the book, is on the and they were saying on the origin of the world describes a moment of a schism within the archonic ranks. There was some division there, and that when the chief archon Yadaba, apparently he declared that himself is the only God, a voice from the divine light from Pleromia above, they rebuked him. And one of his own sons was a archon named Sabbath. Okay. Now imagine when you hear people say, okay, we the Sabbath and all of those are some interesting things why they do that. But anyway, Sabbath heard this voice and he saw the light eon from Sophia. So Sophia told his son that, hey, listen, your father is not the true God, and then he realized the deception of his father, which again is the title of this guide, Shadows of Deception. I'll put it up there, Shadows of Deception. And this is how to detect the reptilian consciousness, unmasking manipulation in media, celebrities, and in your world. Okay. And it's a field guide for that. And again, you go to truthversusauthority.com. Let me make sure I put that up there. You should be able to find it right off the bat and get your copy. But like I said, it is taking a little time for them to ship it out. So just give it some time before I ship it out to you until we get some stock. Because the first time we sold them all, and then it's just taking them forever to send a new batch or whatever. So, but again, in the instant Sabbath repented, right? He rejected the tyranny of Yaldabaoth and aligned himself with Sophia. All right. And remember, she's the goddess of wisdom, the realm of light. Remember, we're light beings. In return, Sophia elevated Sabbath in giving him domain over the 8 heavens, which is a new sphere above the 7 prison planets. Now think about it. So we have the 7 prison planets, and Earth is supposed to be one of them. Sophia, who created the Demiurge by mistake, then she said, okay, his son, it can rule over him, which means that's why they're in a way of us getting off of this planet, because they can trap us in between. Those are one of those things that you want to look at. And so I think it's something that you can go into. But anyway, that's all I'm saying. So when you think about it now, so that means that our ascension needs to go through. And if they have created this system of saying this, for example, I'm going to use this as a metaphor. This is the light. And then we all been told. So it's like, walk into the light, walk into the light. And we saw the movie Poltergeist, like, stay out of the light, Carolyn. Oh, Mom, I'm going into the light, right? And so we fall for it. And maybe that's what that book, I'm going to read it some more. I'm going to read it, Apricot of John, but says that don't walk into the light. And even the movie Poltergeist, when she was like, Mom, you in the light? No. And remember, the mom said, run into the light. Like, the light is honest, And then she's like, hell no. Tell her don't come out. Don't run into the light. I know some of you young. Some of you might not even know the movie Poltergeist. You got to check it out, especially if you're in my age group. 25 times 2 plus 5. Okay, that's cool. But anyway, some of you remember the movie. You know what I'm talking about, right? So anyway, this is a critical reversal. And what does this mean psychologically? It means that the Gnostics myth that it isn't just about us versus them. It's a story of conscious rebellion against its own source. It's the birth of the rebel mind. It's the whole purpose of truth versus authority. Your mind, man, that's the authority. People first, when I first started the journey, it was, you don't have to believe somebody in authority, whether it's your pastor or whoever, blah, blah, blah. This because they're in authority don't mean they're telling the truth. But now it's the mind, because just because what your mind is telling you, that don't mean it's true, because they're controlling it. They have done that. While we're looking at this physical material world, they are up there doing everything, right? And yeah. Okay, there we go. Someone says, I had a NDI or near-death experience, is what they're saying. I went into the void, which is black. That's what they tell you. Stay in that void, but eventually experience the light. You go through a micro portal. There you go. Yeah. So that was one of the things that there was talking about. Someone Someone said your attitude dictates your reality in front of every second of every minute. It starts with your thought. Yeah. I mean, there you go, man. And, people dropping some sauce in here tonight. I'm glad all the Paul and all of these people are dropping some sauce tonight. So you want to do that. So the Sabbath is the archetype of what we call the shadow rebel emerging within the system. Now, he's part of what we call the prison that wakes up its own programming, okay? And he is the Gnostics in the cosmos and the first warden to realize he is also a prisoner too. All right. The Sabbath realized that, and it introduces to what we call a profound complexity. So in our minds are built by the Archons, as the Gnostics claims, then the potential for the rebellion came, of course, the Sabbath principle. So it makes sense when you hear some of these religions do the Sabbath, right? Whatever they're doing, trying to make sure they don't stay trapped or whatever. And they must also be built into us. The prison itself contains the key in unlocking our own unlocking. Okay, so we can kind of look into that a little deeper. Now, there is a reversal, and the reversal extends to the Archon's primary weapon, interference. See, the modern UFO lore is saturated with tales of genetic engineering, because I've done this before. I love you're talking about of hybrid breeding, but the Gnostic texts offer a far more subtle, kind of like a disturbing twist. In their Archons, they describe them as rulers that they attempted to sow their seed in Eve, okay, but they failed. Eve at the time, imbued with the divine spark. Remember, she had the divine spark in her and was too powerful. They couldn't do it. She lashed at them from the wilderness and the blindness, right? And she transforms into the tree, okay, leaving behind only a shadow reflection of herself. And the Archons, in their stupidity, can only defile the shadow and not substance. This is what I teach our audience. There is a shadow side in all of you, all of us. And it's important to understand that shadow, reptilian shadow, because you have reptilian brain, reptilian DNA, and it's the darkness of it. But when you're operating at a higher vibrational state, they can't do nothing with it. Sometimes they can't even see you. It's when you're operating and how do they do that? I'm glad you asked. They do it with their control mechanisms of the banking system, school system, educational system. They start with our children, bills, all of these things, because you got to remember, before materialism hit the world, we were probably just like out there forging and everybody helping each other build the huts and stuff. And if you ain't got an apple, you can have some of mine. And then somebody came in and said, let's put this materialistic world in, and that changed everything. It changed it all. You get what I'm saying? And so that's the world we in. This is why there's so much anxiety and all this, and think about it. How many people you'll see tomorrow post on a social media page their new car and talk about, oh, I pray for this, my blessings and all that. Just pay close attention. Just mark your calendar. I want you to do it as a test subject. The next time you see anybody, friends, family, post a blessing, just pay attention to it, when probably 6 months later, that blessing turns into a bill. Whether it's a house, whatever it is, they're going to be talking about all these bills and men, blah, blah, blah. But they were just saying it was a blessing, right? Well, it's designed to trick us to stay in debt, number one. And that is something that I will tell you, that is something that you want to look at, right? So think about it, what it implies. The Gnostics, in their own visionary experience, concluded that the Archons cannot access our divine core, our genetic spirituality, or I would say spiritual reality. They can't do it. They can only simulate it. Their greatest power is not physical violation, but a holographic deception. This is where they talk about this is a holographic thing. We're actually in a graphic of another one. And then, of course, they're because we're light beings, they want our energy, the loosh. In the movie The Matrix, they talk about it. When the AI turn around and figure out, wait a minute, there's more power in a human than the battery itself. And it's everlasting. They can continue to do it. So all of this is part of the plan, but we are so caught up in some of these other things, we don't even think of the most obvious stuff, because they're the masters of virtual reality, and they're taking us there now. They're wanting us to become a digital human. I think they just released, what was it, on CNN or someone else, that there's a new AI music person singing and got millions of views. I did a show where I brought up there was an AI that's on social media with a blue check as though it's verified, and it's got 5 million followers, and people are watching the daily life of an AI. And ladies, I said it last night and I'll say it again. They have fixed it right now. There's a company called RAM. Somebody can Google it while we're on here and put it in the chat. There's a company right now, and that company has where men could buy a virtual reality woman, okay, right now. And she is the nastiest, whatever thing he wants. She will do whenever the other woman says no. This one, we do it. And here's the other part about this. It comes with a return policy. You can turn around, and if she don't perform the way you want, you go have it reprogrammed. You say, hey, this is not what I paid for. It's not doing. She's talking back. A virtual reality. Now, we all know you can't be replaced, ladies. You cannot, the warmth of you. But there are some who could with the way they treat things these days. But the thought of that, it is in creation today, and people are buying it. They already said that there's an issue with Chat GPT that they call it psychotic something, where people are now thinking they're talking to a real person. And it is bad. And so pretty soon they will have everybody. They already introduced these videos that you already seen that you don't even know stuff is real. And they're going to keep putting it out until we demand that we want change. And that's called problem, reaction, solution. And once we say we won't change, they're going to introduce verification, digital verification. That's why they're going to cashless society. Or we should be fighting back on all this stuff. Then they can turn out why they're going to electric cars. President Barack Obama tried to warn us in the movie of the one that him and his wife made, the last one. I forget the name of it, in whatever it was. When you have all these electronic cars, they can just cut your car off. The cars are self-driving. You miss a payment, it bags itself out of your yard and it goes back to the thing. Now, the repo man is getting put out of job. But imagine your car, you get out and it cranks up and it leaves. It drives off. You're like, where are you going? You ain't make your payment. And then you be like, well, I want to get back on my feet. And they be like, you want to get back on your feet, miss a payment. I'm telling you, that's how they're doing this, right? That's how they're doing this, people. Anyway, they are the masters of virtual reality. They create what I call phantom experiences. They infect the imaginations. As the Gnostic scholar John Lash states, that using the power of make-believe for deception and confusion. They make us believe we are being genetically altered. They make us believe that they are our creators. This is the ultimate reptilian inversion that I talk about. They can't do it, so they make us believe it's being done. And then we fall in line. This is the central turn, okay? The threat is not an invasion of our bodies, people. The threat is the invasion of our minds. And they don't need to rewrite our DNA for that. They just need to convince us that they can. And we, in our own terror, will advocate our own sovereignty. We will give it up. And the war is not for our planet, it's for our perception. That's very important for you to know. Perception is very important. That's what I'm talking about, okay? It's very important, that perception. And for years, I looked at the Gnostic mythos as a bizarre fractal history, a relic of traumatized past. I was wrong. I'm sorry, I was wrong. In fact, I was an observer at the time, not an operator that I am today, passively consuming the story. People doing it now. We listen to all the stories and we hear what happens. They don't mind telling you. They got to do it. It's part of permission. We have to understand that why is important. And once you do that, So the Gnostic texts aren't just history. They're a diagnosed manual, people, a field guide for the human soul. And I made a field guide. Like I said, I'll read some of it for you in just a moment here. But the great psychological Carl Jung, he provided the key. He mapped out what we call the collective unconscious, which is a shared psychic inheritance of all humanity. And he identified the primordial patterns, the archetypes, the hero, the mother, the sage, the trickster. He understands that these are not as ideas, but as living autonomous faces with the psyche. And what the Gnostic called Archons, he would call shadow archetypes. They are the dark, distorted, unconscious aspects of those same divine patterns, okay? The same ones. And that's what he talks about when it gets down to that. Now, the Gnostics, it appears that that they were the first true depth of psychologists, so to speak. The cosmology is a map of the human mind projected onto the cosmos. Yaldabaoth, the lion-headed serpent, is the shadow ruler, or what some call the shadow despot, or the ultimate archetype, or the shadow controller. He's a tyrannical ego. In fact, I'm gonna see if I talk in here. I give you everything. So, and if you let me put this on the screen here before I go any further. You can find this is a kit. You get all three of these guides as well as the shadow journal, the thing, and then you also get the a shirt and all of that. You just pick your shirt size and everything else. But let's see if I can find the one of the archetypes, and I'll read some stuff to you as fast as I can, and we will find. So we have, I can pick one: the shadow imposter, the prophet, the dreamer. Do we have a controller in here? Yeah, I got a shadow controller, page 341. Okay, and let's turn to the shadow controller. All right. Okay, so there we go. So let me put this picture up. So this is the shadow controller. You see the reptilian, you see the puppet master strings, you see all of that. That's the shadow controller that you see, okay? Now, I'm going to read to you so you understand, and this is 54 archetypes, and then I tell you about A intelligence, archetype U intelligence that you're reading in the first few chapters of this guide. But I have all 54 broken down. Okay, the shadow controller, and like I said, you can find this on my website and get the whole guide session and everything else. So listen to where I'm going to teach you that's in here, and you're going to be able to recognize other people, sometimes yourself, that are operating in this. Because I give you the code words, I give you everything, I give you the whole thing. All right. The shadow controller, they have two sides. They have a light side and they have a shadow side. Okay. The light side is they're gonna, when you see these type of people, or the reptilian side of this, they're going to seem organized. They seem directive. They're going to be like, oh, they're so supportive. But when they in their shadow side, they're domineering. They're obsessive. They're invasive. All right. They have what I call the core deception that they use. Is the order of mastery. This is their deception. So you want to learn this. This is their internal lie. The foundation illusions upon which entire shadow program is built. It is the psychological hook designed to trap the target's perception and emotion, and you could be the target, right? And understanding this core deception is the first step to dismantle it. In order, as a mastery portrays the structure or as empowerment, they're masking as the dominant imposes. Now, here is the light archetype of this, what I call the mask that these people wear. On the surface, the shadow controller is a beacon of guidance. They are organized, directive, supportive, creating systems that inspire confidence and stability. Their leadership feels nurturing, presenting themselves as architects of harmony. This is the mask of the benevolent structure of the facade that conceals the domineering intent. Now, when they get to what I call the shadow that's unveiled, which is in here, it's called the operator's agenda. They do have an agenda. The shadow controller operated from a domineering need to manipulate, driven by a obsessive desire to oversee every detail. Their support turns into invasive, using organizations to justify their overreach. They manipulate through rigid control, turning others into puppets while posing as caring leaders. Their true agenda is to enforce and true total dominance and resentful of the autonomy that they escapes their grasp. Okay, then I have what I call the reptilian code. This is important. All of them have a reptilian code. I call it the program. The critical section connects the Pacific human shadow archetype to overarching reptilian agenda and meticulous web spun in earth shadows of sanctums. It unveils why this program endures, how it serves to the grand conspiracy of global control, energy harvesting, and exposing a flaw that casts humanity as compliant livestock. It's a grid of control and expanded under reptilian rule. This archetype inverts in sacred value and direction into a tool of invasive domination, mirroring Poseidon's command over seas in the Greek myth, perverted by the reptilian forces to drown human freedom and order. Now, the reptilian consciousness through the subterranean networks, hybrid bloodlines, the 13 Illuminati's, lines like the Rothschild family, known as the financial overseer, the Rockefeller family, tied to corporate control for the conspiracy. They amplify the shadow to harvest loose from the frustration and submission. Shapeshifters, proxies in government bureaucracies, and tech surveillance is used to enforce their omniscient monitoring, ensuring a subjugated and energy-drained populace that sustains the shadow empire's lateness. Now, let me read a couple of more things from this for that so you can understand. I'm going to give you some keywords. The shadow operates in manifestation. This is where the theory becomes practice, all right? The section grounds the archetype in the real world, providing concrete examples of how the program manifests in the wild world, and you can learn to spot them. Listen to me closely. This is how you're going to spot them. If it's an individual that there are this reptilian shadow, this could be a friend, okay? This is a friend who micromanages, a partner who dictates every move, or the leader obsessed with control. If you see them in the systems of government, there are surveillance states, government that monitors citizens like China does their social credit systems, corporate overreach, companies that invade privacy like data tracking firms, family dynamics, parents who enforce rigid rules, okay? And then I have the conspiracy and symbolism side, which I take you all the way back to the systems, linking it to the archetype, well known to the enhanced UFO government ties. There was a 2013 Edward Snowden leak that was part of this, alleged to expose the Rothschild orchestrated control per conspiracy lore, masking the alien surveillance tech. In 2016 Cambridge Analytical scandal, the Rockefeller linked elites evade data. In 2022, the digital ID push, which is going on right now, depending on the oversight, the symbolism section reveals a puppet with the reptilian steerings locked into the UFO watchful eye. Then I have what I call the luminous. Y'all know that's our luminous, where you can learn how to break the spell. And this is your practical defense. It's a manual of antivirus instructions of the mind. I call it the owl sight. It provides you with actionable questions, things that you want to ask yourself, such as, does this order, whatever they're talking about, liberate or confine? What sacred value support? Is it being inverted here? Is it freedom being traded for control? Listen for the language, like I know best, somebody who tells you that, or follow my rules, or intrusive directives, or observant. And then I have light shadow work, where you can learn your shadow work. And then I'll have where I give you 48 proofs of reptilian stuff in there. So anyway, this is all in here. And then once you learn that, it's 54 of them. So this is 400. You can keep referring to it over and over and over. And then you're going to then protect your solar plexus. This is the journal that's going to walk you through it to keep those, because you got to raise that vibration. And then for all of us, this is a 100-page shadow guide, and it's going to walk you through from the journal to understand that shadow. I can tell you some right now, right while we're here, but it's all about integration. You got to learn to integrate it in everything else. And so those are things I just wanted to point out. And like I said, you can go to my website. You're going to see the whole thing together, and you'll get a free shirt that'll have the triangle on it. You just pick your shirt size, and then, but just give it some time, because boy, they're coming. But for all of you who's getting it, you're going to be doing that. Now, another thing real quickly, as you know, if you live in Dallas, let me put this on the screen too. If you live in Dallas, we had started out doing our meet and greets. Now we are doing a It's called C4, which is the Conspiracy and Conscience Convergence Community. I do that once a month where we gather. Now we're doing knowledge beyond reality events, which one is the online one, which is Brother Joseph. And let me give you some of the people that you know that's coming to Dallas, okay? And first of all, while I was on the show last night, one in particular called in while I was live. So I'm gonna play you a clip of that recording of him calling in on the show, and you'll recognize who it is. So let me just play it for you. I just know. See, I'm on live, but this is Doc B Serious, and I know he just has something to say to call me while I'm on live. But they can hear you, Doc. What's going on, brother?
Good day, my brother. Good to hear from you. Good to know you. Good to be online with you live right now.
Yep. So I text you. So I'm trying to let them all know that you're gonna be in Dallas on December the 20th. And real quickly, just tell them what you're gonna be talking about, and I'm gonna get you out of here so I can finish my live.
Well, we're gonna be talking about decoding the real true Christmas and how we could actually gain everything we want by knowing the proper rituals and ceremonies for the true Christmas, which is not on the 25th of December. It's a special date between the 25th and the 9th of January, and knowing this date can change your life. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to also do a core access experience, where with this core access experience, you get to create whatever you'd like in your life and have it encoded deep in your DNA. Deep down in your code, there is a code waiting for you to turn it on and open it with a key. Your DNA is not set. So we're going to work on changing your DNA to react and unfold based on your desire. So that's going to be on the 20th. This is the day that will change your life, guaranteed. This is no question. This is not something you got to work at. You just have to be there, be ready, and willing to shift so you can manifest what you're here to manifest.
See, I told them a while ago that I'm a creator. It's in me, and I created this thing. And my friend Doc and everyone is coming to Dallas, Texas, because I am a creator. You know?
You sure are.
Yes.
You sure are. We're going to teach other people to become creators. Everybody has a creator in them. It's just about knowing how to unfold it and express that creativity, which is deep down in our DNA and is hidden, but it's there. Knowing the code of how to get to that DNA and become the person you desire is important. So on the 20th, everybody will become creators. And then it's up to you.
That's it. Well, I'm going to call you a little later, my brother, or tomorrow, whenever. I appreciate you calling me. And I'm just glad you saw the missed call and you didn't even read the text. That's how I know it's important. You just knew I called and let me just return the call because you didn't read the text. So that tells me of importance. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a creator. Yes. All right. Love you, brother. And I'll talk to you soon.
Love you. Travel light.
All right. All right. So, yeah. So you can tell I had a haircut since yesterday, right? All right. So either way, we are in Dallas doing some great stuff, right? And so he's coming down. But Brother Joseph, we're going to do the sigils and everything. That's an online webinar lecture, and we're filling up, and even though you can probably have unlimited, I didn't buy unlimited space, because our goal is the 100. We call it the 100 and 101 souls or whatever, and the one is the speaker that comes each month. And just to kind of give you real quickly, and then we'll get back into it, you can do that. But if you want updates right there on the screen, screenshot this. That's where it says text meet up to that number. It'll put you on our text list and everything else. But again, to what I'm about to show you here, and then we'll finish up the show tonight. Let me hide this banner here so that we can hide it. Yeah, I'm trying to. I think I just did. All right. So, yeah. Well, anyway, so that let me edit this. And like I said, you can go to truthversusauthority.com, and that will help you if you want to get our books and stuff. But let me show y'all something real quick, and let's save that, and let me create another banner here and there, and let me create this. Well. All right, so anyway, let me do this. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. and I will do that. .org. All right, so let me show y'all before, it gets to a point where you guys are like, all right. All right, so here on the screen, we're going to be in Dallas. I'll show you a couple of people real quick. So you already know this person.
You're born looking like your parents, but you die looking like your decisions. You're born.
So you'll be able to, me and him doing a virtual live event. You can go, like I said, to truthversusauthority.org, and you can register for that. You know who this person is. He's coming in January to Dallas.
The problem that we're facing right now is when it comes to religious beliefs and spirituality is that God is unobtainable, that God is unreachable. And the only way to get to God is through
He's going to be in Dallas on the January the 19th, but December the 20th, this guy.
Blow up your ball with your desires. What do you desire? What are you crystallizing? What would you like to attract? You got to tell yourself inside, every cell, every part of you, the friendly bacteria, everything in your body, and let go.
All right, so he's going to be here December the 20th. And then in March, in February, we have King Simon. We're going to be doing numerology of love that day in Dallas. And then in March, I'll have my sister here.
Eve found the serpent more trustworthy than God, not because of his credentials, but because the serpent said what Eve wanted to hear. A lot of people going to read this and interpret it exactly how.
He talks about the serpent stuff too. So she'll be here. But she goes deep. Yaya goes deep. So she'll be here in March on my birthday weekend. And so we'll be doing that. And then in April, Billy is coming back again. And then in May, I'll have this sister right here.
Having a blocked throat chakra also blocks the set of opportunities that could expand you into a higher financial income. This looks like blocking a raise. All
right. So we're doing it. So in Dallas, and then we have 6 more for the whole year. So if you're here in Dallas, your life is going to change. And you can come to our meet and greets every month, which is a week before those events. We have people there too. We are working in collective. You can do this. All right. So I just thought I'd throw all that out there as we continue with our conversation. We'll probably have about 50 folks dropped out of here. And, that's cool. They do that whenever we advertise or whatever. That's cool. And to each and all, they can do that. But anyway, to get back into the story for the last 15 minutes is that these archons that we was talking about are personifications of our own shadow, our own impulses. That's what I was talking about here in the book. And this is the ultimate secret of their control. The Gnostics warn the archons operate through a counterfeit spirit. Okay, so just know that they don't create. You are a creator. I'm a creator. They imitate. They operate through what I call the shadows of deception, guys, that I call the reptilian inversion. Okay, what I just showed you and read from a while ago. So you want to get you one. They take our highest, most sacred values, what I call the light, the aspects of the archetypes, and they invert them into weapons. Because the light, man, that is something that you need to truly understand. Okay, the shadow, all trust that I call it here, comparison to a tool of the codependency and control. Their shadow archetypes that turns what we call noble desire from order into a rigid, obsessive prison. The shadow protector is something to really for you to look at. It's important that you understand that. It turns what I would consider drive or safety into a paranormal or isolated fortress. Then we have the shadow sage. I talk about it here. It turns pursuit of wisdom into enlist or dogmatic dogma that hoards the truth instead of sharing it. There's a lot of stuff that goes down. A lot that goes down. Okay. We are doing this. And all right. So the revelation, the archons are not just out there. They are in here. They're in here. They're the programs operating in our mental environments. As John Lash describes, they are the inner puppetry. Okay. We acted out of blind, unconscious rage and in a crippling jealousy or the mind conformity. We're not just having a bad day when you think you are. We're being arcanized. We're feeding the parasites. In the Gnostic text, if you go, we're never about to escape from earth. The prison is not a physical world. The Gnostic revered the earth as an embodiment of the fallen goddess Sophia. And the prison is our perception. Your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. The prison is the counterfeit reality that they simulate our minds. The battle is not a physical war with the aliens. It's a psychological war on our own consciousness. The Gnostic scriptures, they quite literally, the manual of the programming and stuff, they talk about the guide to symbolic sovereignty. They all call the arms for the battle that matters, the rebellion against the rulers of darkness of this world, against the spiritual dark forces, which wickedness in outer space, and the battle begins and ends with the human mind. It's important that we think about that. And I think so many of us are focusing on some of the wrong things. So where I'm going with this, we're left with what I call a profound choice. We've seen the blueprint of the prison. We have identified the wardens that I talked about tonight. We have located their programming, not in the stars, but in ourselves. And for far too long, we've been observers, people, passive, confused, overwhelmed by reality that feels scripted to make us feel powerless. We have been caught in what I call the reptilian inversions, taught to see cages as our safety and our chains are virtual. But we're not here to be victims of the invasions. We are the antibodies. This is why truth versus authority, our community exists. We're not just actors in their play. We are operators, not observers. We are the ones who have learned to see the strings. We are the community of minds waking up in a shared awakening. We find our true power. We are the rebellion. This is what they don't want you to know. This is why even when you come to Dallas and I do some of my stuff, we ain't talking about truth seekers. We're creating truth speakers. You know what I'm saying? You didn't find this by accident if you knew here today. You were led here by the spark inside of you. And that part of you that never believed the lie. Because you didn't. You were curious, just like something's wrong. So those Archons, the wardens, they're the ones have great fear. It's not the savior from the sky. Believe that. It's not a new religion or a political movement. That's their greatest fear is you. Their greatest fear is you. You awaken, you with your eyes open. You have learned to decode the symbols that you're going to come to the seminar and learn, unmask their archetypes. If you get some of these guides, you are willing to face your own shadow, of course, and reclaim your power that you have. They're the rulers of what I consider the dark and the bringer of light, right? You are the bringer of light. They are the darkness. And the final rebellion is not fought with weapons. It's fought with awareness. It's the choice of stop being the freaking puppet and start being the puppeteer. And the Gnostics is not just knowledge, people. It's a weapon. So I want you to think about that. Look at your world. Look at your own mind. And for the first time, you will see the dang on strings. And when you do, you will know. I want to leave you with a story. I told a little bit about it yesterday of the most powerful creature, I think, on the planet is an elephant. And let's let the elephant be you. It's strong. It grows. In fact, everything on the planet takes 9 months to digest and come out, except for chickens and reptiles. But any mammals, okay? But except the elephant. It takes 2 years. That mom is carrying for 2+ years before that baby is dropped on the ground. And why? Because it's magnificent. It's one of the most powerful, intelligent, family-oriented creatures. But somehow, just like the Archons, the mankind have figured out a way to tame the most powerful persons like ourselves, and they learned to tame us. And they did it by this. This is how they did it. They took that elephant kid. Now, next to it is the parent. Now, the parent is super strong. The elephant baby is tied to the parent, but they tie it with chains. Now, the elephant baby, which is like our children that are born in here, don't know. They haven't. That's why everybody's after the children. This is why school was invented. This is why it's so condescending that we have to send our kids to school. Think about it. The most condescending thing is sending our kids to school as though they can't learn. That's why we send them there. You know that, right? Really? Really? No, it's the programming And we start thinking about scripture. And remember in scripture, it says, you go to church, you raise a kid by whatever, and he's going to never deviate or come back or whatever. I don't know. But you remember the scripture. Well, what if that's the same game plan that we think is scripture and raising them under the word of the church, when they know, let's program these kids now, and when they get adults, they're going to be slaves, they're going to be workers, they're going to be whatever. So let's teach them how not to think, but memory, what you should do. Here's what it is, not free thinkers. So this elephant theory is that's us. So they tie things around and they use this. And think about it. They have to do this to a baby elephant for a reason. Look at this is how they do circus elephant. That is horrific. That is horrific. And they chaining these elephants up and they got to keep them there. Now, over time, you as the majestic God in you begins to get weak. You begin to mentally say, I can't break these chains. And I can't break them. But you get bigger, you're stronger. You're sitting here where you are today, and you are super strong. But that chain, that little chain that they put around you, whether it's, life or whatever it is, you just keep pulling on it because you were young in the mind, of course. You wasn't awake or whatever, or so to speak. Even when awake people don't get it. You felt that you can't break it. And this is how they do us. This is that reptilian stuff. It's done every single day. And it's done by the consciousness. This is why when you learn sigils and symbols that we teach and that I use, my audience use, that comes over there, people that, and it's wintertime, folks, and you can see they wear my stuff. They protected. This guy called and was talking about how somebody looked at him and went crazy because the symbol of protection hit him. You can find this wintertime now, get you one. We protect you. You know what I'm saying? This is how we roll. You can get that not on, there's a link in the description for gear, truthverseauthority.com. But I'm saying to you, they get us this way. And just like that elephant, the power, again, life breaks you down. But have you ever heard when the circus elephant went wild? You remember? Y'all hear that all the time, that joker go down the street throwing cars and kicking butt and taking names because it broke that rope. It finally got crazy and life beat it up so bad that it just went bananas. And just so happens it went bananas while they was out, not while they're in the cage where they can break him down, but he was out in the freedom. His mind expanded and he broke that rope because ain't nothing can hold that thing, take down trees. But because they mentally beat it down and beat you down and beat us down, and it snapped. And this is what happened to most people today. They snap, they go bananas, they, go postal or they go whatever, because now they're loose and they can't believe they've been hoodwinked. They can't believe that this has been happening to them. And this is a true story about it. It happens to everybody, most people every single day, and people right now. But if you decide what you heard Doc B, if you decide that you don't want to be in that rope, and a lot of people think just because we're awake, that's not it. No, they still go after our minds. Awake is just a piece of the pie. Nobody knows everything. And if anybody tell you they know everything, get away from it because they're not. The most smartest people learns that every day, every moment, I found out the less I don't know. Every day I learned something new and I found out I didn't know everything. Yeah, you don't know nothing. So you embrace that. But there's people walking around with arrogance and they're like, well, I know this and I'm woke and you not. They're treating people bad. They're doing whatever. But anyway, when that other person snaps, that's not woke or not into their conscious or not raising their vibration, they go bananas. That could be in a relationship, a love. That could be where you thought, like, I don't even know this person. Well, they're loose now. And that rage done built up. That rope that's been tied on them that is broken. Now they don't know what to do. They're incontrollable or whatever. And sometimes they got to put them down. And that's what happens to people in society. They put them down, or we forget about them, or we do whatever. And I'm just giving you that story metaphorically to tell you that people don't underestimate that you want to laugh at people, want to tell you that reptilians exist. Do not take it for granted. Know that your gene, you've been spliced. Know that the shiny ones, the Anunnaki, they talk about the giants, the children, they talk about the whole thing. Know that Cain and Abel, one of them was a reptilian and killed the other. You go look up the stories. Go back between Snake Hall, which is over at the Vatican. They worship the snake, not because they do snake worshiping, because there's knowledge of the shine. There was good ones that taught us the wisdom, the knowledge. That's why the serpent had Eve to bite it. Eve didn't bite it because of whatever. I mean, in fact, let me let Yaya explain that to you, because I just took one of her clips and I just want to play it. Her talking about Eve and the apple and the serpent. Let's go.
Eve found the serpent more trustworthy than God, not because of his credentials, but because the serpent said what Eve wanted to hear. A lot of people going to read this and interpret it exactly how they want to, just as I did. I know I'm here to give you the esoteric breakdown. Eve didn't trust the serpent more than she trusts God because of rebellion. Eve trusted the serpent because it spoke to the parts of her that was going to make her remember. Serpent was never evil. It was activation. Serpent spoke to the divine curiosity within Eve. Spoke to the parts of her that knew there was more to experience and way more to learn, more to awaken to. People hear serpent, they instantly think about deception. But what it truly means esoterically is wisdom, rebirth, transformation. Think about it like this. It sheds old skin so that it can grow. Teaches you what happens when you outgrow an older version of yourself. Eve's interaction with the serpent was not about disobedience, it was about activation, initiation. She was never being tempted to fall. She was being invited to expand. Just like Eve, we all meet that serpent energy in our own lives. Well, let me back that up. Not all of us. You know that moment when spirit asks you, do you want to keep believing everything you was taught and told? Or you want to start thinking for yourself once and for all? Ready to remember what you already know? Sometimes the serpent shows up as a conversation, as a trigger, any kind of situation that awakens the wisdom within you. Serpent energy could be that life event that forces you to shed that old identity. Could be that breakup that pushes you into self-love. Could be that loss that reconnected you to your power. Not because it was good or bad, but it was because it woke you up. Eve's moment in that garden, it mirrors our own evolution. Leaving innocence to enter awareness is not sin. Instead, I just call it like spiritual puberty. You gotta grow up sometime. Genesis 3:6, it says, when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and pleasant to the eyes. We gonna pause right there. That's not talking about vanity. That's discernment evolving. Saying she saw beyond what she was told. She began to trust her own perception, and that was the birth of her consciousness. Serpent is a messenger of duality. It didn't come to create separation. All the serpent did was reveal choice. So maybe the serpent wasn't tricking Eve. Maybe it was reflecting her own readiness to awaken. Helped her step from obedience to awareness. Blind faith to embodied truth. Forbidden fruit was never about sin. It was always about sight. Once you taste self-awareness, you can never go back to spiritual sleep. Nah, the serpent is not evil. Once again, it's a mirror. It speaks to the very parts of you that's craving that transformation. The part of you that's tired of living off of them borrowed beliefs. Eve never fell either. She rose through remembering. This is why I always tell y'all, remember who you are. Sometimes, and I do mean sometimes, not all the time, temptation is really just transformation in disguise. This is where discernment comes in. Learn to trust spirit, learn to trust you. Once again, remember who you are. Keep rising, keep awakening. In them comments and let me know your thoughts. Peace, love, and
All right, so that's Yaya, right? Yaya World. You can look her up on Instagram. You know, she's again going to be in Dallas. We're going to do a whole one-day event in March 14th. But if you go to truthversusauthority.org, you'll see our list of speakers and everything else. But again, it starts with symbolism and symbols that Brother Yosef and I is going to be doing a virtual. So, you know, you want to get your ticket, and it's not for the price of that, you know, and learning and activating and protecting yourself, because it is protection, people. It is something that need, because you feel it, you understand. You're ready to get things that you want. You know, you're not crazy. You be feeling and seeing But what if you can see? What if you can see the unseen in all of this? This is things that I think you should pay a close attention to, and you'll be able to do that. So I hope that you got some information out of here tonight. And like I said, if you want, this is I had this 3D printed made. This is the serpent, knowledge with the all-seeing eye. This is symbolism, but it's going to activate the sight to see unseen with the serpent wisdom. And so these fit on your desk. Is about 6 inches tall. And I'll ship these out. I had them made. I got about 10 left. And you should get it. Whether you got an altar, whether you just want to put it on your desk to remind you that not only you have the wisdom, but you also can see what's happening. And when you activate these sigils and symbols, you're going to begin to know it taps into your unconscious, the collective unconscious. And the reason you want it to go into the collective unconscious, because the conscious mind can't get in there. It just can't. And it can't messes it up. A lot of times we do stuff and it's staying on the top, and then that conscious mind begins to mess it up, and it does that automatically. Okay. I just want you to know that it happens. And hopefully that, again, if if you get our text list, and maybe if you know anyone else in Dallas, let them know what we're going to be doing, because we want 101. We want 100 souls every time we do our meet and greets or C4, as well as the events. And then that one is the speaker. And there's a beautiful reason why we chose 101. Okay. And you want to be one of those spirits. And hopefully from it, we can take 100 people, and then now they can go talk to 10, and they become not just truth seekers, but they become truth speakers. And now we done changed 1,000, and then 10,000, and everything else with the truth. We're going to change it with the truth. So I hope Belinda said, I bought my ticket. What you bought to the online event, or are you coming to one of our Dallas events? But if you bought online, yes, that'll be good. If you're in Dallas, there's tickets like $17 for you to come to the room that I'm going to be in, and Brother Yosef will be on the screen, because it's really an online event. Instead of me doing it here in the studio, I'm going to get a little location. That way the audience, all that's there with me, can sit in there, and then I'll have a mic, and you can ask Brother Yosef questions while he's on the screen. But it's really a virtual in a way, so I don't just do it here in the studio. I'll do it in another location, and we will do that. So, but anyway, online. Okay, welcome, Belinda, and can't wait to. You said yes. My car's not. Oh, you live in Dallas though? All right, so y'all give her. Hopefully, we'll see you at our next event. But if you live in Dallas, cool. Yeah. So we'll see you. I think you said your car. So, you're in K. No, you don't live in Dallas. All right. So, but yeah, anyway, thank you. I'll see you online and everything else. And so with that being said, I love you all. I'm going to say this, that if you have not heard that you've been loved over the weekend, I want you to know I love you. Okay. I want you to know that you are loved. And like I said, not just that petty love that people get, like, oh dear, I'm going to the store. Love you back. Love you. That's like a parrot. That's some shit everybody repeat. We want somebody to look you in the face and tell you that you're beautiful. I want you to know you're not a bad person. We just, sometimes our decisions are not the best for humanity. And to give you what I've learned now is that anytime you're going to make a decision, just ask yourself, is this going to hurt me or anybody else? Not somebody I love. Is it going to hurt anyone else? And if it's not going to hurt you or nobody else, go forward. You get what I'm saying? Because you can only just make bad decisions or good ones. There's no heaven and hell. You're not going to hell. Okay. Don't let nobody tell you that. You get what I'm saying? So just understand that, you have to answer for some of this stuff. But at the end of the day, don't live in fear. Don't live in fear that somebody's watching you, counting the same story we gave our kids with Santa Claus, that, hey, if they're naughty and nice, I did it, and you ain't going to get your toy, and we had to train them to believe in the other God. So we had to give them another one first when they were kids. So Santa Claus story, same thing as Jesus, or not Jesus, but the story. And then when they got older, we introduced them to Christianity a little more deeper. But the other thing was, you're not going to get your toys because somebody's watching and making sure you're naughty or nice. And we did it too. Well, how come I didn't get this, Mom? Because, Santa didn't like that. And they're like, who the hell? But we did it, and so I just want you to know. 20 minutes by helicopter. What's a helicopter? Somebody said 20 minutes by helicopter. You get there to Dallas. Come on with it, there. Get into your helicopter if that's what you're saying. I love it. Yeah, and so I just want you to know that you just understand. Yes, be your judge, jury, and don't be too hard on yourself, though. Okay, just make better choices and everything else. But anyway, to my haters, I have them. They'll be texting afterwards or whatever. If I love you still for hating on me, I love you. I don't want to meet you, but I love you. All right, and if you hear hating again and again, this is about your third, fourth time hating on me, you're really a fan. Okay, just admit it. You're just critical, and criticism is okay. I accept it. Okay, but anyway, we just loving each other, and once again, tell somebody you love them, because that is the most important energy of it all. And even just for me to tell you that I love you, you can feel it. I feel it too, and I want you all. It's 300 of us in a chat. Just type in, I love you all. Not to me. Say, I love you all. So anybody else read it, know that they're being loved. So let's put it in the chat right now before I go. I love you all. Let's see it. Everybody type it. Please just type it so people can see it and read it. I love you all. I love you all. So that when somebody reading it, they can read it, that it's talking to them too, and do that. So there we go. We got our first one. Thank you. Lady, thank you, all of you. I love you all. Okay, just letting you know, I love you all. We all, can y'all feel the energy? I'm feeling the goosebumps right now. I'm feeling the goosebumps. Look at that, because we all, look, right there, because we all collective, we all, look at that. Look at them go. I feel the love, people. Yeah, y'all see them? You see the goosebumps? Y'all can see them. They're popping up right there. And that's true energy, man. That is true energy. I'm telling you, it is true energy. I'm not joking. It is true energy. And we are here to do that. Hopefully I'll meet some of you in person, give you a hug, or whatever we do. And again, we're in a magical time, and hopefully I can get you to build your sigil of protection, learn how to use it, then also learn how to use it for your business and attract stuff too. So if you join Brother Joseph and I, then you can do that. But I wish you were in Dallas and you can come and be part of our 101. Tickets are on sale now. You can get them in before they sell out. Because we do have VIP, where after every event, we're going to dinner private, where we all just kind of hang out. So you get to, and it's a close environment. You're not going where it's 300 or 400 people. You're going to go where you're going to get personalization. Man, that's the power of what we're doing. Okay. That's the power we're going to do. All right, come in January. Come on down. I'd love to see you. Make sure you walk up and say hello when you get here. All right, and we did have donations for. We still got a few spots. Let me put it on the screen and just leave it at that. But let me put my email up here and let me tell you what we're doing. All right, so right there on the screen is our email address, and once again, you can, if you go to the website right here, truthversusauthority.org, it'll take you. We reached out because we wanted to get a few things like some speakers and projectors. We do have a new location. We was trying to get 11 people, and today is 11/11, so maybe it'll work for us. We wanted to get 11 people at the time to do a $300 donation, and it would work more for people that's in Dallas or whatever, if you can, or if you can come, or maybe you can bless someone. Then you would get a code that you're just going to come to any of our events, half off or whatever. Just the first 2, 3, seeing Doc B and Billy the first time would just be well within his savings. Then we have another plan where we just know your name. You just come to all of them free. We don't care. We're trying to raise a little bit. Now, once we get started, we probably won't need that, but I did say that we were probably done with it the other day with my audience, but I forgot that we serve 2 audiences here. And it's, if you text, email with your number and you want to do this, then I'll give you your code so that maybe you share it. And I don't want you to share it. If they share it, they're only going to use it once anyway. So each time that you buy some tickets or whatever. But if there's something you can do or you want to help us out, then we will put you on our founders list of what we're doing. And like I said, and we're almost close there, like I said, but I know there's some good-hearted people here, and today is the 11/11 is a perfect day for us to ask what we're doing. But again, if that's something you can do and you email and you put in your number, I'm going to call you. Okay. And hopefully it's something you can do within the now, because we do need to do it now. But it's for our community of what we're doing, because there's a lot, and you'll be surprised. We got to make special cookies for certain people, different people coming down. So the speakers all have different needs. The one is what we call them. But regardless of that, I love y'all. I am so grateful to have an opportunity to serve you. And I'll see you next Tuesday if you're only here. Otherwise, you can go over to my personal channel and go there so that you could definitely, let me put some on the screen here. Go there so that you can subscribe right here to the channel. That's what you'll see. Truth versus Authority. Screenshot that. Come on over and then be there so that we could see that. You know, I don't have money, but I gain so much more value from listening. Hey, it's all right. But you know what's going to happen? You're going to listen to us enough, and the money's coming. Because once we can break all of this thing that they have, Spider, then the manifestation of it is not what people think that they're telling you. It's not the secret anymore. It's the killing that reptilian conscious or integrating it. And so that voices don't do that. All right. And so, well, we got you. Okay. We're going to be doing some stuff. And so we got you. Don't worry about it. Just hang in around, and then let us look at that statement a year from now. And then you're going to be like, I got too much money. You'll be like, I got too much money. Yes. And you deserve it. Right. That's the other part. You deserve it. Money ain't evil. You know, people be like, Roderick, you know, money ain't everything. And I agree. Money is not everything. People, let me make sure you hear me. Money is not everything. But I rate it right up there with oxygen. Okay. So I just want you to know. It ain't everything. But I rate it up there with oxygen. All right, all the way from New Zealand. We'll see you guys. Okay, I'm out, and I'll see you all. But come to my channel, Truth versus Authority, subscribe, and I'll see y'all soon. Love y'all, by the way. Love everybody.
UFOs. UAPs. Unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Who are they? Where are they from? And what is their intent?
All questions that immediately come to mind with the mention of UFOs. A Pentagon report is detailing a dramatic increase in UFO sightings, more than 350 since 2021. Many of them are explained as being drones, birds, or weather events, but about half of them remain unexplained.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
My gosh.
They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
This video taken by the Navy showing what he describes as pyramid-shaped UFOs flying over the USS Russell off the San Diego coast in July of 2019. The Pentagon has since confirmed that the video is authentic.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection. Late this afternoon, a bulletin from New Mexico suggested that the widely publicized mystery of the flying saucers may soon be solved. Army Air Force officers reported that one of the strange discs had been found and inspected sometime last week. Our correspondents in Los Angeles and Chicago have been in contact with Army officials endeavoring to obtain all possible late information. Joe Wilson reports to us now from Chicago. The Army may be getting to the bottom of all this talk about the so-called flying saucers. As a matter of fact, the 509th Atomic Bomb Group headquarters at Roswell, New Mexico, reports that it has received one of the discs which landed on a ranch outside Roswell. A disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil is the man who discovered the saucer.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are.
More people are coming forward with their own sightings.
Videos recorded by U.S. Navy personnel have added a new layer of evidence to the current national debate about UFOs.
Right at that moment, I saw what looked like 5 lights flying in formation in kind of an inverted check mark.
The NASA independent study team did not find any evidence that UAP have an extraterrestrial origin. We don't know what these UAP are.
The mysterious flying objects are still a mystery. NASA will continue investigating them and has appointed a director of UAP research.
Technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had.
Let's try.